Hello and welcome back, or welcome if you're new. It's Sunshine Lorena and this is Vlogmas Day 20 and I'm coming at you with my best picks of 2021. So yes guys, I'm going to give you a rundown of all of my best picks of 2021. Yeah, just to share with you ones that I really enjoyed and maybe you want to pick them up as well. So in 2021, the 5 stars were lacking. I'm not gonna lie, they were lacking. So I only had 6 5 stars in 2021, one of which was a reread, which is The Alchemist, and I've spoken about it so many times, and by now you must know that I absolutely love it. So I'm not going to include it in this list because it is an all-time favourite, so I feel like it is one of my best picks of 2021, but it's always the best, you know? So that leaves us with 5 stars. I have some 4.5 star books on here as well, you know, the ones that didn't quite make that 5 star mark but were very close, and then there's going to be a few honourable mentions from the 4 stars. So yeah, let's just get into it. So the first 5 star that I had this year was No Exit by Taylor Adams. Again, I've spoken about this so much on my channel over this month especially. But yes, absolutely loved it. That was a fantastic thriller, snowy atmosphere, isolated setting. It had all of the ingredients of the perfect thriller for me. So in this one we follow our main character Darcy. She is going home. It is, I can't remember if it's around Christmas. I can't remember. It's not a Christmas book anyway, but she's going home. Her mum is unwell. However, there's a snowstorm and it gets so bad that she has to pull it into a rest stop. There are other people at this rest stop, and they're having to wait basically until the snowplows come, clear the roads, and they're all going to be able to drive again. However, this isn't expected to happen until the morning. So the book takes over the course of a night, so it's quite a short time frame, but that's what gives it the extra, I suppose, intensity. She goes out to her car for something, and in the van next to her she sees that there's a child in a cage, which means that one of these people that are at the rest stop with her is a child kidnapper. And she has to work out who it is, who she can trust, how she can get the child out of this van and get the child away and herself out of the situation, all before the snowplows come, because once the roads are cleared, whoever it is going to obviously escape and get away, and who knows what's going to happen to the child. Yeah, so like I said, it is so intense. Darcy has the strength that comes from I don't know where. Her reactions to the situation, like she is on it. She is on it. Like, you know, I'd want to be her in that situation. But I don't know, would I have the same sort of strength? I have no idea. So yeah, she's a great character. The intensity, the fact that you're trying to work out who you're able to trust, who you're not able to trust, it is fantastic. Yes, absolutely fantastic. Really enjoyed it. And if you haven't picked it up and you like thrillers, pick this one up, guys. Pick it up. The next one, again, I have spoken about this so much on this channel, especially in the last month, and that is The Hayden Game by Sally Thorne. It's a romance novel. If you don't know, the film has just come out. Again, I'm still trying to find out when it's supposed to come out in the UK. I know it's out in America and I am like dying to watch it. So yes, I need to get on that. I need to find it. I need to see when it's going to be here so I can view it. However, yes, The Hayden Game, we have 2 main characters, Lucy and Josh. They work for like a publishing company, I think, and there was a merger a few years before, and they both work for the respective like owners, bosses of their merged companies, and they've just always hate each other. They always like do things, complaints, like they're always fighting, arguing, and yes, the HR lady has to deal with them, and she is blessed with patience because I think they have filed like a lot of complaints against each other, how they're both still employed, because at times they're extremely unprofessional. So yes, they absolutely hate each other. Then there's this position that the 2 owners come up with that we're going to report into them, and whoever has this position will be the boss of the other one. Now obviously both of the bosses want each of their proteges, you know, to get it, so Lucy and Josh. So they are fighting and competing for this promotion. They want to really get it, so they're fighting and competing. So yes, lots of hate games, etc. flying between them. But there's some sparks there, guys. There's some sparks. and I don't want to say too much more, but the interactions between the two of them, the intensity, the build in this one, it was fantastic. Absolutely loved it. Got me out of a reading slump as well. Yeah, brilliant romance. I'm not a big romance reader, but this one really just hit the mark for me. It hit the mark. Next on this list I have is Dial A For Aunties, and it's by Jess Q Sutano. I listened to this one only in audiobook and it was absolutely fantastic. I mentioned it in my audiobook recommendations because this audiobook is fantastic. Yes, this was a 2021 release. This book is hard to categorize in the sense that kind of crosses a couple of genres, so there is like a mystery element to it, there is comedy in there, and there is also a romance element, so it's not exclusive for one genre, and I suppose you could say it's contemporary as well, but yes, it is so good. I absolutely love this one. So in this one, our main character goes on a date and she accidentally ends up killing her date, you know, as you do, as things happen. And instead of calling the police like any sort of normal person would do, she goes home with the body in the car and she speaks to her mum, and she calls up the aunties, and the aunties come around and they are on it, they are problem solving the situation. At the same time, the next day, they have a wedding business and they have this massive wedding, like massive, like it is going to do wonders for their business the next day, and it's like an island, so you have to get a boat to go there and things. So it's a combination of them trying to make sure that this wedding goes perfectly whilst also getting rid of a body. And the aunties are hilarious. They're so funny. They're an Indo-Chinese family that were immigrated to the United States. I should probably mention that as well. And the aunties and the mum are hilarious. It's so funny, like there's so many moments that you just laugh out loud just despite what the book is about, and oh, it's just fantastic. At the same time, our main character, she ends up bumping into someone that she knows and likes, and it's just all a bit awkward, the situation, and it's just fantastic, guys. It's absolutely fantastic. And the second one in the series, Four Aunties and a Wedding, sorry, comes out next year, and I can't wait for it. I thought it was absolutely fantastic, and it's a brilliant audiobook as well. Then the next one we have on this list is And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. It was my first Agatha Christie ever, and I need to read more. I understand now why she is the queen of the murder mystery. This is her most famous one, and it is a standalone because I know that she has quite a few different series as well, mystery thriller series. Wow, I can't speak today. And yeah, so she has, yeah, this is standalone. This takes place off the coast of Devon on a little island. We have 10 people who are invited. They believe they've been invited by someone they know to go to this island. There's a big mystery around who actually owns the island. So they're all lured there by someone who's apparently invited them. They're all lured there. However, they soon discover that they are there for specific reasons. Somebody's gathered them. It's not the person that they thought it was, but somebody's gathered them because they have some secrets in their past, and they start turning up dead one by one. That's all I'm going to say. It's like a locked room murder mystery because it's just them on this island. There's no one coming to the island, so it's a bit of a locked room mystery. So you're trying to figure out, along with the people that are still there, like who is it, who's actually killing the other people, how did it happen, and it's just so good. I did not work it out, but it's fantastic, absolutely fantastic murder mystery, and I can see, like I said, why she's the queen of the murder mysteries, and I'm picking up other ones by her as soon as possible because yeah, fantastic. Then we have the last 5-star one on this list, and that is Jeong Born 1982, and it's by Cho Nam-joo. So this one is like literally fiction. It touches on feminism, there is contemporary elements. It's set in South Korea. I'm going to read the synopsis on this one because I think that's the best way to kind of describe what's going on in it. So this one, in a small tiny apartment on the outskirts of the frenzied metropolis of Seoul lives Kim Jae-young, a 30-something-year-old millennial every woman. She has recently left her white-collar desk job in order to care for a newborn daughter full-time, as so many Korean women are expected to do, but she quickly begins to exhibit strange symptoms that alarm her husband, parents and in-laws. Jeong impersonates the voices of other women, alive and even dead, both known and unknown to her. As she plunges deeper into the psychosis, her discomfited husband sends her to a male psychiatrist. In a chilling, eerie, entranced third-person voice, Jeong's entire life is recounted to the psychiatrist, a narrative infused with desperate elements of frustration, perseverance and submission. Born in 1982 and given the most common name for Korean baby girls, Jeong quickly becomes the unfavoured sister to her princeling little brother. Always her behaviour is policed by male figures around her, from the elementary school teachers who enforce strict uniforms for girls to the co-workers who install a hidden camera in the women's restroom and post their photos online. In her father's eyes, it is Jeong's fault that men harass her late at night. In her husband's eyes, it is Jeong's duty to forsake her career to take care of him and their child, to put them first. Jeong's painfully common life is juxtaposed against a backdrop of advancing Korea, as it abandons family planning, birth control policies and passes new legislation against gender discrimination. But can her doctor flawlessly completely cure her, or even discover what truly ails her? Rendered a minimalist yet lacerating prose, Kim Jeong Born 1982 sits at the centre of our global Me Too movement and announces the arrival of writer of international significance. And yeah, that is the best way to describe it. It is fantastic. The themes that it explores is so relevant. I want to say this came out around 2015, but yes, it's very relevant to everything that's going on today and seeing how she explores everything in her life. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Then we're going to go into the ones that were 4.5 stars that almost, but not quite, made it to the 5-star ratings. And we're going to kick it off with a romance, and that is The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hoang. And this is the first in a trilogy of romances that aren't actually really linked, but I need to read The Bride Test and The Heart Principle, which came out in 2021, and I have them on Kindle. I'm going to get to them because this one was really good. So this one is another one that, like the Hayden Game, comes highly recommended in the book world for romance books. And like I said, I'm not a romance reader, so I kind of look at these recommendations and pick them up, but I can see why people absolutely love this one because it is such a great one. So we have our main character Stella, and she is like super smart, like with maths. She comes up with all these algorithms. Her job has something to do with that. She is super intelligent. However, she has Asperger's, and she doesn't really know how to deal with things in the romance department. Her mum is always kind of pushing her to find someone because she wants like grandchildren, for her to get married, have grandchildren, etc. So since she kind of has this she doesn't know what to do in terms of romantic relationships, she decides to hire a professional, and that's when she hires Michael, who is an escort. She ends up convincing him to give her kind of love romance lessons, and she's going to use him as like a practice boyfriend so that she can find and obtain someone that she wants to actually stay with. Michael can't afford to turn down her offer because the money is just too good, and yeah, he is in need of that cash. And he doesn't feel, what I like about Michael is he doesn't feel morally that great about the situation, but he kind of agrees to it because of the money, and also then you see the development of his character throughout this, which I think is really good. But yes, I like how he also kind of does it because he's like, someone else is going to really take advantage of her and I don't want that to happen to her. So he kind of, that's another reason why he agrees to it. He's a good guy, guys. He's a good guy. So yes, before long, you know, he's teaching her how to kiss, but then she kind of wants to like learn other things as well, and then she kind of is dealing with what she's feeling with throughout this whole situation. And I don't really want to say anything more of what happens in the situation, but it does get kind of described as like Pretty Woman, but like the reverse, which it kind of is, you know, that kind of situation. And yes, it is really good. I really enjoyed it. It is a bit spicy, there is a bit of spice thrown into this one. And yeah, really enjoyed it. Recommend if you're looking for another great romance. Then the next one I have right here, and that is The Story of the Lost Child by Elena Ferrante. This is the fourth and final one in the Neapolitan Quartet series. It starts with My Brilliant Friend, which you might have heard. There is also a series. They've done the first 2 books so far. They're supposed to be filming the third one, and then they will do the fourth one as well. And I think they're fantastic adaptations and stay really true to it. I'm obviously not going to tell you what happens in this one, because then I'll be giving away the things that happen in the other books. So yeah, in this one, just to make you aware, it's kind of like their late 40s into their 50s towards 60s that you follow that time frame. So I'm just going to let you know what the first one's about, because obviously, you know, don't want to ruin. But yes, the series follows Lenu and Lila. They grew up in this very poor, violent neighbourhood on the outskirts of Naples. They are very much, you know, people there get stuck in the circumstances of their neighbourhood and get kind of pulled into the life that people have there. And the first one starts in their childhood, and then it goes into their like teens. And both girls are very, very intelligent. It starts off in the 50s, and girls, they tend to always get educated, not just girls actually, also boys. Everyone gets educated at the end of primary school, and then you have to do a test, and only the best of them can do a test to then go on to middle school. However, obviously it is their parents' decision if they want to continue sending them, because it costs money. And yes, so you have this kind of element of how one family kind of appreciates, or at least, you know, appreciates the fact that education kind of, maybe, you know, one of these girls could get educated a bit more. The other one's family isn't like that, and, you know, basically is like, no, you can't. So the girls kind of diverge into slightly different paths, one who goes on to have education and one who doesn't. Like I said, they're both brilliant and they could both go on and do great things. However, one gets the opportunity just because her family decides something different over the other one. It's literally fiction. It's just written so well, and yes, you see their friendship, how it grows, but how their lives are on different paths, and how they both kind of are influenced by each other for various different reasons. Friendship at times can be a loose term between these two, because sometimes they're quite clearly competing. There's a little bit of like hate at times, but they go through it all. There's like romance, there's husbands, lots of different things that happen in this, and the paths that their lives goes down. It's really hard to kind of describe it without kind of giving anything away, but it's beautifully written. It's a great literary fiction. It is translated fiction as well. It's a fantastic series, and I recommend that you pick it up. And like I said, the TV series is such a great adaptation as well. Then the next one we have is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I read this back in summer. Again, this was a 4.5 star. It is a classic. It was written in the 1930s and is kind of referred to like a classic kind of thriller, like domestic thriller. Rebecca is the deceased wife of Maxim, and he goes to the south of France, and he ends up meeting our main character, who we never actually learn what her name is. And it's purely, I suppose, the way it is designed is to show that she's always in the shadow of Rebecca throughout this whole book. So we never know what our main character's name is. Maxima ends up asking her to marry him, and she does. She doesn't really have good kind of family circumstance, etc. So it's like, and she actually really does like and love Maxim. So then they go back to his family home, which is, where was it? In Cornwall. There we go. I can't remember exactly where it was. It was in Cornwall. So yes, and they arrive at Manderley. And yes, it is about our main character then, her struggle in this house, the staff, everyone, the friends that he has, etc. Everyone always loved Rebecca and thought that she was perfect and amazing, fantastic. The housekeeper in this one as well. So our main character always feels like she's second best. She's in the shadow of Rebecca. And there's also lots of mysteries around what happened to Rebecca. And yes, I don't want to really say anything more than that, but it's such a great read. It's an easy classic as well to pick up, and yeah, it has those thrilling aspects. So if you are a fan of thrillers and mysteries, this is a classic that I would recommend that you pick up. Then the last 4.5 star that I had this year was The Shining by Stephen King. It's a fantastic horror book written by him. It is one of his most famous. I have still yet to see the film, but I know the film is different from the book. In this one, one of our main characters is a 5-year-old boy, Danny. He has what they call the shining, in the sense that he sees things, and like kind of knows things, gets a sense of things that are going to happen. So his father ends up taking a job at the Overlook Hotel to be a caretaker over the winter period. So Danny, his mum and dad end up going to live in the Overlook Hotel, and what happens is during winter there's always a ton of snow, and the hotel basically has to close down across the winter period because it's impossible to stay open with the snow, and because it gets snowed in. But they need someone to be there to make sure the heating's always run, maintenance work is done, etc. They have had previous caretakers before and things have happened. But yes, Danny starts having these visions, these dreams, and is very concerned about going. However, they do go there. But yes, as winter kind of closes in, there's a blizzard, and then Danny keeps kind of seeing things in the hotel. He senses there's things there. There is something weird in like room 217. There's like guests going up and down the elevator, and the animal hedges seem alive, etc. So and somewhere in the hotel there is some sort of like evil force going on, and that too is beginning to shine. I don't want to say much more than that, but yes, Danny is such a great character. I think King does write children in his horror books really well, and I always like their characters. It's done really well. I really enjoyed this one, and yeah, I recommend it if you are looking to pick up a King. But yes, it was a fantastic one, and it was only my third King ever that I read, and I really enjoyed it. It's not quite my favourite one. Misery still holds top place, but this was, you know, a close second. Great snowy atmosphere as well in this one, which I loved. Then we're going to have a few honourable mentions of the 4 stars books as well. I want to mention the Songs of Manuelescobar by Carlos Alba. It is like historical fiction. Yes, it's a Spanish family living in Glasgow who immigrated there, and it takes place around the 70s, you have the childhood timeline of our main characters around the 70s. There's also a timeline of like the 1930s in Spain that you see for the father's past, and then you also see the timeline of the more present time of our main character Antonio, and you see the developments with his brother Paulito as well. And yes, Antonio very much grows up being anti-Spanish. He doesn't like, you know, his heritage. He's embarrassed by how his parents speak, how they're different, and it's all because he gets bullied for being different at school, so he very much rejects that side of him. And this is this story about him growing up, also like how he turns out his identity, and then how he explores that as an adult. And like I said, there's also this mystery about why his father, what happened when in like the 1930s, 40s, which is during the Spanish Civil War, and why he ended up leaving Spain. And it's just fantastic. I really enjoyed it, and this book is basically hardly anyone seems to read it. There's like 11 reviews on Goodreads. I highly recommend this, guys, if you can get your hands on this one. Another honourable mention of also is a 4-star is Tender as a Flesh by Agustina Bastarrica. I read this back in November. This is not for the faint-hearted. It's like a horror dystopian book in a world where essentially there is some sort of disease and animal meat is no longer consumable, but for humans they've tried and they can't work it out. So eventually we're in this period of time where it's gotten to the point where apparently they still need animal protein and cannibalism is okay. However, it's not just randomly like picking people off the street. They have a whole system where there's certain humans raised for consumption, and there's like a whole process, like you see the slaughter process, etc., and how they're bred. Our main character gets gifted one of like the prime, kind of one of the best ones, by a supplier, because he works in like the slaughterhouse, but he like reports to the boss. He is very high up. He doesn't actually deal with the day-to-day things. There's other bits and pieces he does, but he's gifted by a supplier one of these kind of, they call them heads, because they won't refer to them as humans. And then it's kind of the story of what happens with him through this whole period, what he thinks and what happens with his head. And I don't want to say anything more than that, but yes, definitely not for the faint-hearted. And that's it. Those, I just wanted to give those 2 honourable mentions, but that's all of my best books for 2021. Let me know if you read any of them, if you felt the same way that I did, or what's your best book of 2021. Comment, like, subscribe, and I will hopefully see you in the next one. Bye!